Welcome back to Beginner Yoga. This is going to be a practice that's focused on the fundamentals of movement and mobility, and also I'm going to be extra mindful of our wrists today. We're going to make sure to spend some time putting a little bit of weight on our wrists, but not too much, so we can hopefully build the strength. Something I hear people complain about why they can't do yoga is because of the yoga hurts their wrists. And the best way to get over that hurdle is to strengthen them. So we're going to be very mindful about the wrists today and how to strengthen those. If you have a yoga mat is certainly ideal, but you definitely don't need one. You can be right down on the ground, whether you've got a rug or carpet. Just make sure you have a nice little tidy space to practice. A mat or even a beach towel works really well. And also, a couple good things to have near you is if you need a little bit of help with some of these movements, it's nice to have a pillow. The pillow is helpful for getting comfortable in this seated position where we're going to spend a little bit of time at the beginning of class. But also, having a strap can be nice too. If you're trying to do some of these like forward fold type positions and you can't quite get down to your toes, you can have a strap, and that strap can be helpful. You can use the belt of a robe or even just, a cord or a piece of rope. Anything that you have works. Don't think you have to have something from the yoga store. The way I like to start a yoga class is seated, here cross-legged. This is the original yoga position. Back before yoga started having all of these funny body shapes, it was just sitting and breathing. And so don't forget your breath today, because breath is the most fundamental aspect of yoga. So as we find ourselves cross-legged here, try to lengthen your spine. Feel like there's a string tied to the top of your head and pulls that spine up tall so that it's stacked on top of itself. I know I'm tight in my hips, so sometimes this is hard for me. So if you're finding yourself having a difficult time getting seated, don't hesitate to grab a cushion. It will help you be in the right position. You don't want to be forcing anything or hunching in your back. So try to get seated and comfortable. Sit really tall, take some deep breaths. If you need to tug on your knees here a little bit to help yourself get in the right position, you're welcome to do so. So to get started, let's bend over, stay cross-legged, but see if you can inch your fingers out in front of you and feel a little bit more of that stretch there. Now slide your hands over to the top right corner of your mat and see if you can stack your left hand on top of that right hand and build in a little side body stretch here. Now we can inch our hands back over to the left top corner of the mat. I feel this right here deep in my hips. Try not to let yourself twist too much. Keep your chest down to the ground. And inch forward as much as you can, or be as close as you can. All right. Now we're going to come back up and rock forward into an all fours position. One of the things that I'm going to focus on is trying to be as quiet as possible with your movements. We're not going to stomp around. If you need to have multiple adjustments for getting in and out of these positions, do so, but try to go slowly and quietly and be deliberate with your movements. This is one of my favorites. When I get here in all fours, I like to wiggle around and shift my weight over here onto my wrists a little bit. But don't just let your arms stack and have your weight come into the base of the wrist. Try to spread this it out throughout the tips of your fingers. So feel the ground, feel the mat, and push into the mat and the earth with all of your hand. The middle of your fingers, the tips of your fingers, the full palm. Don't just dump into those wrists. Now we're going to do a little movement called cat-cow. Cat is where we tuck our chin down into our chest. And then cow is when we arch our back and look up like this. Now let's try to do this a few times and sync it with our breath. Or exhale into cat. And breathe in into cow. Let's do this 3 times. Sync to your breath on your own pace. Now let's take our left hand and bring it underneath the center of our chest. Don't forget to be mindful about distributing the weight throughout the entire palm. This is going to free us up for some movement with this right arm here. So let's start by maybe widening your knees just a little bit. And reach up and get a little twisting action as much as you can. You might not be able to come quite as straight up and down as I can, but that's okay. This is your body, your movements. Do what feels good for you. So breathe in as you come up. And on the exhale, come down and through. Breathe in and come up. Exhale, down and through. 2 more on your breath. Now let's switch arms, do the other side. Get nice and centered with that right arm. Don't forget to distribute the weight throughout your hand. Breathe in on the way up. Exhale on the way down. 2 more on your breath. All right, now we're going to come back into this all-4 position. And we're going to start to do a little bit of core work. Nothing too crazy, I promise. This one is called, it's not really a yoga pose, but I like to do it anyways because it ties in with everything. This one's called pointer. So stick your right arm out straight in front of you. And then if you're feeling strong in that position, you can take your left leg and bring it back. Try to plant that heel on the wall. Hold it here if you can. And if you want a little bit more difficulty, you can crunch in that knee towards the elbow and then come back out. And do that 2 more times. And then back down into all 4s. Let's bring some balance, do the other side. Arms out in front of you. Right heel back. Try to have a nice flat back here. Think about reaching forward and the heel down. And if you feel like a little bit more, back to all 4s. Now we're going to bring our knees out towards the edge of the mat, a little bit wider, and sink back down into child's pose. Child's pose is a nice place to find a little bit of relaxation. Feel free to just take a break if you want, or you can walk your fingers out as much as you can and feel that good stretch in your shoulders and lats and back. And then, kind of like we did in seated position, walk your left hand over on top of your right. Feel that stretch. 2 more breaths here. And now we'll walk our hands over to the other side and get our right hand on top of our left. Mix in a little of that side body stretch there. Now we come back to regular child's pose. Walk our hands in, bring our knees together. And we're just going to be seated here. We've got your toes pointing backwards, so the laces of your feet are down on the mat. I'm just going to sit here nice and tall. I like this stretch because it really helps me stretch out this tibia muscle down here at the bottom. I'm a runner and I often have tighter legs. So we can sit here a little bit, try to be nice and tall. You should feel the stretch, but don't let it be painful. You can rock forward back into all fours, and this time let's tuck our toes and go back into that position that we were just in. This one is going to add a little bit of foot stretch into it. Oh yeah. If you need to be up tall, you can be up tall. The further back that you sit, the more stretch you're going to get in your feet. Try to find some comfort here. Now let's come back down into all fours. This way we're going to work our way up to plank. Plank is basically a push-up position. Chaturanga is how you say this in the yogi speak. Now we can hold this for a second. If you need to be down on your knees, you're welcome to be down on your knees. But the most important thing is that you don't dump down into your shoulders. Find that strength and let your little arch in your back happen here and push down. Now this next part is the slower the better. I know this is starting to get a little bit tough, but the slower the better. We're going to let ourselves down real slow to the ground. As slow as you can. Now we can let our shoelaces come back down to the mat, point our toes. This first movement's going to be called low cobra, where we're going to lift our chest up off the ground. Don't push too hard off the ground. If you're feeling okay here, you can lift your hands up and really focus on the muscles in the lower back. If this is still feeling good, you can touch your toes together, lift them up a little bit off the mat. Hold that for a couple breaths. Exhale to release. If you're feeling good with that, feel free to stay there. Keep doing those lifting up with your hands off the mat if you can. Lift those toes. Or we can come up into full cobra, where you can start to push yourselves off the ground. You can maybe even work your arms up underneath you if you have that movement in your spine. Don't forget, don't dump down into your shoulders. Try to have a nice proud chest. And if this is within your practice, you can also switch to up dog, which is where you lift your thighs up off the mat and have your weight down on the end of your toes. But don't feel pressure to do all that. We can just do a little bit of low cobra if you'd like. Now let's shake out the arms a little bit. I know that can get a little bit tough. And we can come back into full plank. So tuck those toes. Get that one little push up in. Don't forget that you can be on your knees if you need to be on your knees. Try to make sure that you are rocking your shoulders forward. If you want this to be a little bit more difficult, you can try to bring your shoulders actually out in front of your fingertips. Or if you need it to be easier, you can settle back in a little bit there. Now we are going to tuck our toes and try to walk ourselves back into forward fold. Nice and slow, as many finger pushes as you can. We can hang out here in forward fold. Some people will want to cross their arms, help you get that stretch. Now go ahead and let your head dangle, release your back, let all the troubles of your day fall out the top of your head. If you're feeling like a little bit more, please feel free to stay here if this is enough for you. But if you're feeling like a little bit more, you can walk your hands out and we can do some down dog here. When you get into down dog, you use your arms and shoulders to push your chest towards your thighs. But as my girl Yoga with Adrian says, we're not going for yoga journal here. This is your body, your practice. Do what feels good for you. And now we can work our way back to that forward fold, meet up with where everybody else is. And now on the exhale down here, and on the inhale, arms wide, proud chest. Stand up tall, hands over your head. We can settle down into mountain pose. Since we're in mountain, you got to remember about the strength, because mountain isn't just standing here. Mountain is feeling the strength of the earth. So think about how you're making contact with the earth. Think about your feet. Just like we were doing with our hands and our wrists earlier, try to spread the weight out throughout your entire feet. Now that we're here, we can lift our arms up over our head again, and we're going to get a little bit of a back bend. Try to just rock backwards. Keep that nice tall spine. Don't let your hips come out too forward. Keep your hips where they are and just slowly arch back. And if you want to bring your arms out wide here and include a little bit of chest stretch, you can have that in here. Don't forget, proud chest. Back up to the top. Let's do that 2 more times. Now let's go back to halfway lift. We're not going to fold all the way over. We're going to fold to about 90 degrees. Keep your back nice and straight. Think about your pelvis, and we're just going to dump that bowl out forward. Try to not let your back dump like this. Try to keep a nice straight back and think about that tall spine.
Spine straight.
Pretty good. Find that hamstring stretch there. On the inhale, back to mountain. Now that we have our hands up above our head, let's grab our right hand, grab our left wrist, and we can lean over to the right. Don't let yourself twist too much. Try to stay on the same plane and feel that side stretch. On the inhale, come back to center. Switch the orientation of your hands and wrists. Exhale down to the left. Inhale back to center. Let's do each side one more time. On the inhale, back up, feeling a little bit of burn in the shoulders. And we are going to slowly rock forward with that nice straight back down into forward fold. Uttasana. Enjoy this for a moment. And then we are going to try to get our hands to the ground. If you need to bend your knees here to get your hands to the ground, you can. You can also widen your feet. And then we are going to take our hands and walk them forward back into that plank. Don't forget, nice and tall. Don't jump into those shoulders. Have a nice proud chest. You get that little bit of an arch in your back. Now, if you can, feel free to go down to your knees if you need to. But we're going, if you're up here, we're going to take our right knee and bring it to our right wrist, and then come back to plank. If that felt good for you, you can take that right knee, twist it, and bring it over to your left wrist, and then come back to plank. Let's do the other side. Left knee to the left wrist, back up. Left knee to the right wrist, back up. So now we can use that movement that we just did and come back down into cross-legged. Ooh, that was some good little core work there. Now that we're seated, we can take our left hand to our right knee and keep your spine nice and tall. Think about that string tugging your head up. And let's see if we can find some twisting movement there. You can take your right hand and put it behind you. Don't crank too hard with your upper body here. You need to allow your spine to have the movement. Don't force anything, especially not with the back. Nice and tall, find that twist. 2 breaths here. Proud chest. Now let's bring some balance. Go to the other side. Right hand to the left knee, left hand behind you. Don't forget to stay nice and tall in the chest. If you're having a hard time in seated position, don't forget we have that pillow right there. One more breath here. All right, come back to center. Let's get our legs out into forward fold here. You might need to bend your knees. Try to get your hands down to your feet. Or you can just sit tall. Don't let yourself dump in your spine too much like this. Try to keep a nice tall back. I can't quite get down to my toes with the tall back, so I'll get a little bend in there. Feel the difference when you're nice and tall, and then you can let yourself have that spine stretch. Reach down, bring your forehead towards your knees. Couple breaths here. As you spend some time here, you might feel yourself start to open up. Maybe you can straighten your legs a little bit more. Now, nice and slowly, we're going to let go of our feet. Bring our hands up to our knees. Find that length in our spine, nice and tall. And as slowly as possible, let yourself down to lay down on your back. Slow, 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 slow. Slow. In this This is Shavasana. It's also called the corpse pose. You just lay here and surrender. Take a few breaths to celebrate the work that we did today. Thank yourself for giving yourself the permission to take the time out of your day. Focus on you. And maybe find something else to be thankful for. I'm thankful for my beautiful wife doing this yoga class with me.
Thankful for our reorganized family room. And for you, of course.
Take a couple deep breaths here. In a perfect world, you do this for at least 5 minutes. And just slow down and relax. But I'm not going to videotape myself laying down here for 5 minutes. Please stay in that position. And thank you guys and gals for participating in yoga today. It was a great class. Hopefully we built a little bit of strength in our wrists, but also increased some mobility. And of course a little bit of light core work too. So thanks again. I've got other yoga classes on my channel along with a lot of other stuff. So feel free to poke around. Thanks for watching.
Rollers.